Okay, good day and welcome to Tough Talk. My name is Steve Badier, and today I have a very special guest with me talking about. When I say special, I mean special is someone who will go down in history not just in an African Australian setting, but I mean like the Australian or setting. And it's a pleasure for us to have her on our interview today. And our guest today is no one else but Senator Lucy Gichuhi. So welcome, Senator.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, very good to have you on. And like I said, I have reference. You being a senator, the first African Australian or Australian senator of Black African descent. It's something important, something historical.
Yeah.
But before we go into that, can we first start talking about, just give a brief history about yourself. Brief because you have already talked about this, but it's good that people who are going to see on our interview just get a gist of yourself, your professional background, family, where you're from, and things like that.
Yeah, like you have mentioned, my name is Lucy Gichuhi, Senator Lucy Gichuhi, and I arrived in this country in 1999. New migrant, completely from scratch, didn't know anyone, hadn't been to this country before, but it was a question of getting here and of course going through the first few years of cultural shock. Cultural shock because there were no Africans here. It's you go to the streets and you see somebody black and you say, hey, where do you come from? Black person, where do you come from? The first person we met was from Nigeria, and we were so happy to see that was 1999. So anyway, thereafter was a question of getting used to this new environment, one thing at a time. And I mean one thing at a time because I remember trying to put my kids in a daycare and forgetting completely where that daycare was. And then I'm trying to drive, I have no idea. And those days, there were no GPS. It was a manual, book your strength. In Africa, we didn't read maps. We used to tell you, you know how, turn around the corner, turn the other corner, turn left. So here you stop somebody and say, where is daycare? They go, what do you mean? You know, so those are years, I remember them with what I would call nostalgia, but don't get me wrong. They were tough, they were challenging, and after about 2 years, I really had to make up my mind. Do I stay or do I go back? And I remember going back to Africa for a visit and then making up my mind that, you know what, I'm gonna make this place my home. I'm gonna be here for a long, long time, but at the same time, I'm not giving up who I am, what I do, but I have to do it one day at a time, one thing at a time, and that is a bit brief about myself.
Good. And just to touch on that as well, before we go into our questions, but let me just touch on what you said. During your maiden speech, you talk about your proud African Australian.
Yes.
And I think the emphasis on you being like a very proud African Australian is something that we could dig into a little bit. In the sense that sometimes as migrants, especially young people, tend to have cultural identity issues. And say for you that have always maintained your identity, it could be how you wear your hair, your African attire, your accent. What does it mean to you being a proud African? How can you speak to young people who may have identity issues, who may wish to identify as Australians more than Africans?
You know what I would say, and this, me too, went through kind of, I'm here, everybody is, I tried even to think like you talk differently, but you know what, I was too mature to think. I was born in Africa, that is me. I am black, that is me. And that is who I am. And I can only flourish from that comfort point. You can only move on from a point of strength. And the strength you have is who you are.
True.
Black, short, tall, hair, whatever, and you have to acknowledge that and accept it. Once you acknowledge it, it's no longer an issue.
True.
So it doesn't matter that I sit in that whole Senate and somebody says something so derogatory to Africa, I will say, you know what, I was born there, I was raised there, it's my society, it's who I am, and that is what I've brought. So you always take who you are with yourself.
Yeah,
it is so sad, especially when young people are trying to fight. And this country needs them, and it needs you as black as you are. It needs your dressing. It needs your color. It needs, because this is a multi-ethnicity society. So it needs us.
So what about some people who may see that as a disadvantage? Say maybe being black, being of a different culture, having an accent. They may see that as a disadvantage.
How on earth can you be a disadvantage? How can anyone wake up in the morning and think, I'm a disadvantage? That must be the hugest misconception that any human being can wake up and think, I'm in the wrong place, I'm a mistake, my hair is this, whatever you find yourself, especially that thing that makes you stand out. That's the thing you bring.
Yeah, that's your very essence.
And this country needs it. It doesn't matter that you meet some other people who may say something different. Yeah. That is, they are so long. The only thing I can tell, they are so long. You are here, you are needed with your color, with your accent, with your hair. All you need is respect other people equally. Australia is a multi-ethnicity country, and we are here because we are needed here. Australia needs us here, and we better get that into our heads.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So let me go to say, you were number 2 on the family first ticket. Okay, so Senator Bob Day won, and then later on, I think due to some financial issues or issues with the business, he wasn't eligible to continue.
Yeah.
So when did news break to you that you were going to become or replace Senator Day?
Yeah.
And how did you take that? Because that's a significant news. That's a life-changing, historical news. How did you take it? Where were you when you heard that? Do you
First
remember?
and foremost, after we did campaign, because I was volunteering for Bob Day and supporting him, and then he said, oh, the person who was being my number 2 have dropped out. Do you want to be on my ticket? I thought, ooh, whatever that means, but you know what? I'm still a volunteer. Put me on your ticket. Anyway, and we did that, and Senator got in. And I went back to do
regular.
What at that point, I didn't have a job. So I went to work with women's legal services. That is where, once again, I was volunteering, you know. And I was working there, and I continued. But I remember one day I was at home, and a friend called me and said, congratulations. I said, why would you want to congratulate me? At least at this time, I'm, you know, pretty normal. And she said, no, haven't you heard the news? I said, what news? And he said, Bob Day. And my reaction was, is he dead? Because that is the only thing I knew that would happen for me to get into the Senate. So he said, no, he's having financial issues. Okay. So that is the first time that I thought about it. And guess what? Even after that, I called his office. And I said, what's going on? And the then chief of staff says, oh, I'm the new chief of staff. I'm the new senator. I go, no, I was number 2 on the ticket. Yeah. He goes, oh, that's not how it works. Senator has nominated me to be number 2. I said, okay, if that is how it works, but you know what? I need to know how it works. Yeah. I need to understand it. Much better. And I need to know why it is, because before I back off, I need to know I'm backing off. And then he explained to me, and guess what? Truly, Senator could have picked that other person to be the number 2 and leave me out. But this is where we know God factor, and this is where we see God moving, and this is where we hang on to believing into either our faith or whatever we call on, because I said, this is unfair. I was number 2 on the ticket, and then, but you know what? There's nothing I can do to control that. All I can do is to say, okay, then I wait for the next turn of events. And then that is when I knew. I heard later that even in the first place, Senator was not qualified because he had financial issues here. So that is the first time I now start thinking, if this thing happens, what am I going to do? But you know what I said? You know what? I will just face it. I will just do it one thing at a time. And
so did you give up when they said there was another chief of staff being nominated to take over the Senate? Did you give up, or was it?
Me, I don't give up because of those kind of things. I give up when I see legally or the process is actually knocks me out. Or if it is an election, I'm last or whatever, I say, okay, in that case, I'm out. But, and that is what I kept saying to this new senator, I said, no, that's okay. But given that I'm new to this, I need to understand how does it happen. Okay, so basically my mind never give up until it's blocked, it's finished. So yeah, but you know, it was a bit of a struggle there. Not a struggle, but just an understanding. And then once I understood, I didn't have a choice. If that is the way it goes, that is the way it goes.
Okay, so then just to get a full story, Senator Day was eligible to, in the first place, to become a senator. So then they couldn't honor his chief of staff, who was meant
the
to
way
take over.
it works is if Senator Day had been eligible, he would have now, like now I can resign and pick somebody of my choice to take my place. That is how it works. But if I wasn't qualified in the first place, then I don't have that privilege. So Senator Day didn't have that chance. Yes. So that is the only way I came in, because it's not because Senator Day, and this is the thing we need to know, especially people of migrant and new people, is that this country supports you because of the way systems are. These things of I can discriminate against you is against the law. So we don't have to think that, oh, because I'm black or yellow, and that is to go back to your question, somebody thinking, oh, I'm black, I won't get this. That doesn't work here, because it's not what anybody wants. It's what the law says. So just know that if you are entitled to something, you can get it, you can advance for it, just be respectful, but know what you need to get and know how to get there and keep asking questions, and you will get that.
So I think knowing the system is always a good thing.
Know the system, know how they work, because that is, we are here because the system needs us. We migrated here, not because people wanted us, but because we came here to work. If you came as a skilled migrant, you came here because it was a job for you. If you came here because through humanitarian, you came there because the system needed you. So you are not here because A didn't like you or B, C. So, and I don't understand, because when we get here, then we start having all this fear, oh, we are discriminated, we are black, we are yellow. Oh, they didn't call us here. We came here either to work, and we came here to do. The only thing to do once you get here, start making yourself a person of substances. What do I mean? Work, contribute, grow, love this country, make it your own. Yes.
No, that's true. Yeah. I'll take it true. Yeah. So then let's go back to, say, after you were announced as the rightful senator, there was a situation where, was it Labour challenged your citizenship status? And this is something
challenging even now. I'm going, how much do I need to be Australian? I'm so Australian.
And this is something that went on to have like a sweeping effect in the parliament. So it was interesting to me how, like, I don't know the history about this in terms of, was this a common issue where in party who challenged other candidates, or was it because you being, did this have to do with identity? Was there an issue about you being African? So there was assumption that obviously you are a dual citizen? Yeah,
definitely. Everybody who looks at you or me thinks we are, thinks that we are not Australians because we are colors. That's an assumption, and people will get over that. But here is the point. If you are in federal parliament, you can't be a dual citizen. That is the law, as it were. But like we have seen, so many people were sitting in that parliament illegally, very illegally. But when I went there, I became elected. Labour challenged my eligibility because if I had lost, if I was disqualified, then it would be, they would have gotten another Labour senator. That is why Labour was challenging. It's just a political. It's not that they didn't like me. It's just because if I had lost, they would have taken the opportunity to get another senator in. So that is why they fought so hard. One of the point of weakness they thought is they thought I was a dual citizen. But actually, me, my entire life, I've never been a dual citizen. I was born in a British colony, so that meant I was born a British. I didn't even know until that time. But once again, that was extinguished, and I became Kenyan. And then, when I came to Australia, I took up the citizenship very fast. Me, I didn't. Once 2 years were over, I said to my husband, you know what, we are here, we better make this place our home. And one way of doing it, become the citizen and do everything. So once I did that, the law that was, there was a window of like 10 years when Kenya didn't, before that.
Accept dual citizenship.
Yes, and I was in that space. So I completely lost my dual citizenship. Having said that, before I went to be put on a ticket, I had gone to Kenyan High Commission and clarified this, and I had all the documents. So I've never been dual citizenship. I lost my Kenyan citizenship. If I ever want to be a Kenyan again, I would have to reapply, and I've never been reapplied. Having said that, I'm African, I'm an Australian of African origin, and that is it. Yeah.
Okay. So now, just being the first senator of Black African descent, what's your own impression of being part of Parliament? What have you learned? What have been some of the challenges you have to deal with as a person? Okay,
the challenges you deal with generally don't change. Whether you are in Parliament, whether you are in your house, the challenges are the same. You always have to interact with new people. You always have to keep your mind learning and running new things. And the way things are done, that wouldn't have changed even if we stayed in Africa. Every day you are growing. Everything is a process of, first of all, I get to Parliament. What is it that I'm here to do? What is my work? And I start doing that, figuring it out. It's not easy. Just like it is not easy figuring out what you have to do to grow to the next level. So the challenges you face every single day are not specific to your being in a specific job. They are always waking up, living, interacting with the people, working together. Those are naturally the same issues. But there are issues now like political issues. Politics was very, very new to me, but I've become a politician. Now I can see, I know I can be a politician. But I'm saying every job, even if you go to job, it's a new job. And then you get used to it, you learn around, and you get on with it. Sure. So what I'm doing now is getting on with my job, and that is what I do. It's a, what do I say? You know what? You can do the job that you are naturally prepared for, and we are all prepared for our next assignment. This is an assignment. I do it for as long as I can, and then we move on to the next one. Okay.
Let me talk about your area of interest when it comes to policies, because these are things maybe some don't know. What's your area of interest when it comes to policies? What types of policies do you support? Because when it's all said and done, in the long run, you just being someone of historical significance, you want to, people always associate certain things you have done in your political career with your legacy. What's the area of policy you're interested in?
The area of policy that I love, and I don't know where this area fits in. I think I'm now there because I'm the chair of the community services, is this area of just empowering an individual. In your day-to-day life, whether you are black, white, yellow, or green, unless you are empowered as an individual, we can't have empowered families. And if we don't have empowered families, we can't have empowered community. And if the community is not empowered, the nation is not empowered. I feel like when we come to migrate here as adults, because this country, you know, some people are born here, and a lot of other people migrate. Sure. And that is an area where people struggle. That struggle, how do I know how to deal with finances in this country? How do I get a job? How do I move from welfare into a job, into a business, and then into somebody who can own properties or own big businesses? This is a transition. And my thinking and the area of policy I would really like to dwell on is how do you go through that transition without getting lost to loneliness, drugs, alcohol, just because life is sounding too tough.
What would you like to see change or improve in that area?
There's nothing I can improve. I mean, I can't change it. It's just people getting more empowered. So I would like to see more education on basis of financial literacy. I would like to see more education to the employer, to the employee in workplace, that yes, this job you are doing and you can do it for a season, but you also need to think about moving to the next, that you are, how do you fit in? So, you know what, I think there's more education to be done there, and there's more encouragement to be done there, especially this, you have just talked about migrants. They struggle so much the first 5 years before you make up your mind. So we need a lot of support there in education, psychological, and just that, I call it empowerment, so that it includes everything. And how you manage finances, because finances can really put you in a lot of trouble. By the time you figure out credit card, car loans, house loan, by the time and that is a huge thing, it doesn't stop. It continues forever.
Okay, then so now, because you just touched on welfare and talking about empowerment, what's your view on welfare? Because you come across as having a strong view on welfare.
Yes, my views on welfare is this country is so good because it gives you what you need, and we don't have to have people on the streets, right? But having said that, I won't want somebody to be trapped there, because it's not enough to really empower you, but it's good enough for us. But how do we have a process where it is a landing pad, where you are not stuck? It is a stepping stone, and that's my view. My view is I would like to see welfare is something I fall back to, that people know, you know what, if worst comes to the worst, I have food, I have shelter, I have clothing, while I work out my next step. Yes.
So do you know why? Because obviously people who criticize you for this, because being an African, and I think when you made your position clear about welfare, people, oh, she's an African, why she has this view on welfare, because we all benefited from welfare. But then my question is, do you think the welfare system now is being abused by some? And what do you think?
I seriously think sometimes it can trap you.
Okay.
And this is especially young people. They are too young to be trapped. You are too young not to experience that financial abundance that can come. It should be a starting point. So yes, look, it's such a complicated topic. And you know what? I just don't want to see people, especially young people, trapped in that. It is too worry. And I've seen so many people, not self-actualizing because they are stepping on it. People don't really want to, when you have to think that there is a trade-off. But look, if it's a mom at home looking after children, I see where all these things comes in. But then let it not be your last destination. My point is, welfare shouldn't be your last destination. You can still grow and be that business owner. You can still grow and start owning those properties, because you can. You can grow financially. And if you don't have the financial vision, the thing is, there's nothing free. And if somebody is giving you money to stay at home, there's something you are selling.
And I agree with you on that, because I think the essence of welfare is to help people.
Help people, Number two, yes, it is a stepping stone, or it is not your final, not your last stop, financial stop. It is your beginning. So me, that is the point. And what I say is we need to educate our people, especially new migrants, especially people from African origin, that this is not the last. Yes, we have come from Africa, which is associated with poverty, but remember, that doesn't mean we are not very hardworking. So we work hard and avoid those pitfalls where we just don't work enough to move to the next financial station.
I think some people are doing it, but then some are still, I think some people still take advantage of welfare in the wrong way.
In the wrong way,
let me go to our next question here about your political party, because you're a member of the Liberal Party.
Yes.
So there has been this issue of low representation of women
within
your party.
Yeah.
So some have called for a quota for women during election, and some complain that say the pre-selection system sort of affects selection of women.
Yes.
Do you see this first? Do you see this as a legitimate argument calling for more women representation within your party?
Well, the Liberal Party has a lot of issues to work on, especially when it comes to that issue of diversity. It's clear, it's not, the fact is, Liberal Party has a policy that is not putting in women into parliament. That is what it is. And whatever the policy is, it's not giving us the results we want to see. What we want to see is a representative. A political party has to be representative. So if the society generally is made up of 50% men, 50% women, then that is the kind of representation we want to see. Now, is it a quota system? And I ask, why does it have to be a quota system? So there is a roadblock somewhere that we need to unblock.
So are you against the quota system?
I'm not saying I don't know. At what point do we have, why do we have less women in parliament? This is the question we need to answer. Because if we are putting a quota system, it means there is something that is not naturally putting women. If you go to the army, you will find women there. If you go to police force, you will find women there. So why is it that Liberal Party is not having women?
But what do you think that is? Why do you think
that is the point. That is the point, and that is the solution we need to answer. Before we say quota, before we say what, is it solving our problem? I want to know a girl being born anywhere can aim to be a prime minister of this country and not have to be assisted by some quota, some steps, some things. Why can't it be natural? My point is, this country has had over 30 prime ministers, I guess, I'm not sure, but only one. Only one person, only one prime minister has been a woman. And guess what? She wasn't even allowed to complete her term. And even guess what? Why is it that out of 30, we've had one prime minister who was a woman who was not even allowed to complete? There is something that, and whose answer is not a quota, because if it's going to be a quota, then we are going to block again. Why is it not natural for 10 ministers, 10 from whatever? I know Labour is better at at diversity. Liberal, we are doing very, 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 very badly in this zone. But what I'm saying is we need to ask, because when we say it is what can it be? There is something that we need to address, and we must face that, whatever it is, and solve it. I don't know the solution. I don't have the answer, but I'm saying if this world is made up of 50% men, 50% women, then parliament and political parties need to be 50%. All these other roadblocks we have put there, it depends. But there is something that needs to be unblocked, and that is a policy. I don't know the answer, but I know even Labour, even them being a quota, why is it that women are having to be unblocked? What is it we are unblocking? What is it that we have, what is it that we are holding? There is something we need to face, and this is a free country, and I would like to see total diversity.
Yeah. Another thing that has come out in regard to that from your party is, for example, Julia Banks.
Yes, Julia Bilang.
She's resigning and wouldn't contest
Yeah.
the re-election, some people have said, because she's in a marginal seat.
Yeah.
But then she has come out to say this intimidation, male culture, bullying
Yeah.
in the party.
Yeah.
And something you have acknowledged as well, one doing the leadership spill,
Yeah.
because you're a fan of Marco Tombo, and you said they were bullying in the process of getting people to sign on.
Yeah.
Sign for against Tombo, or to sign on to call for the spill.
Yeah.
So do you think that could play a role in less representation of women within the
Of
party?
course, that kind of bullying is very live. In fact, I had been in this country for 19 years before I went to parliament, and I had never felt fearful, scared of anything, anywhere, in workplace, and I had worked with the government, Auditor General's departments for about 8 years, private, and worked and lived in this country. But when I got into parliament, is one time I remembered, oh, maybe I'm not Australian. And then, oh, maybe I'm black. For the first time in my 56 years, oh, maybe I'm black. So it's a culture that reminds you of those kind of things. Do I think that holds back women? No. No, women are strong enough. We have as strong women as men, and that won't hold them back. We already have women that put it. However, there are some things like, you know what happened during my pre-selection, taking dirt and throwing on people, putting long, you know, but it happens to both men and women, and it's just dirty. It's just unnecessary. It's just, there's no point of putting lies, just to get ahead with power. What I think is in parliament is power struggle. Really power people, you know, thinking they need to be in possession of power no matter what. So yes, it's the bullying, harassment, and those kind of things. It's not a good environment sometimes. But you know what, on the other side, legally, there's a limit to what people can do. But because of the freedom of speech in the chambers, people can say things, but anyway, you don't have to be in the chambers for people to smear campaign. Complete, totally unnecessary. Because if you're qualified to be a leader, people will elect you anyway. So all this of taking smear campaign, like what happened to this lady in Wentworth, that was disgusting wherever it came from.
That was bad.
All those things of taking people's financial status. What is wrong with being poor? What is wrong with not knowing how to manage your finance? We are in the process of learning. So when all this smear dirt campaign happens, that is dirty. It doesn't matter what political party is doing it. Whether it's a woman, whether it's a man, it's not relevant. When people have done illegal things or criminal things, they should be called out and held out to be accountable, especially if they are leaders.
Reinforce in a way this trust that everyday Australians have for our politician, and you being a politician as well in parliament. Do you see why people are upset with our politicians, like leadership spill, you know, backstabbing? Do you see why people are upset with you guys?
Of course. I'm more upset. I'm so upset about that. One, because if people have elected a leader, they have elected that leader. This is democracy. Even if that leader went in with one vote, we should let that person govern. Otherwise, if we don't, we are just wasting our time. And guess what? It is so unnecessary, because 3 years is a very short time. So if we keep moving on our leaders or putting them, it's so unnecessary. I'm upset. I get it. I get and I understand, and it's
okay. So now, we actually last political question. I'm going to go to the African community. So now, pre-selection. You had to go through pre-selection. Did you end up fourth on the ticket?
Yes, I ended up number 4 on the ticket. Yeah.
What is the chances of retaining your seat? And 2, there have been speculation that because of your loyalty to former Prime Minister Marco Tombo, you were put through pre-selection. Is that accurate?
I'm loyal to the country. I'm loyal to the leader of the day. What do you mean loyalty to? Who else would you be loyal to? You know, you have a prime minister, you are a member, you know, you've got to work with the government of the day. and your loyalty can only be to the government of the day. If we have our loyalty going elsewhere, what is that now? So, you know what? For whatever reason, I'm happy to serve for, even if I was serving for one day, I'm so grateful. I got here, I got the opportunity. Chances of getting back, once again, maybe 0.000000 the way it is now. But you know what? I've been to that parliament. I have served. I will be loyal to the government of the day because that is the way things work. If I'm in that Senate or parliament and I've got other loyalties, what would it look like? And guess what? We come from Africa. So we are very, very loyal to the governments of the day because we know how unstable government looks like. I worked very well with the Prime Minister. I'm even working better with the current Prime Minister. Okay. I will even work better with any other Prime Minister who comes in because anybody, once the government is in place, you have to shift your loyalty to that government if you had your allegiances otherwise. Otherwise, we can destabilize a government. And that is what happened. People having other loyalties, why would you want to be there? Yeah, so my policy has always been, even when I was an independent, I will be loyal to the government of the day and help the government govern. If I have my allegiance and loyalties elsewhere, I don't deserve to be in that house. Yeah, and that is, I think, the way a country should love. So, yes. Okay,
so then let's talk about the African community a little bit. One, and this is my concern, I have always felt there's a lack of political engagement between the Black African community and Australian politicians, both at the state level and federal level. Most often when we have politicians come to event, they always mention us in a cultural sense. But I feel we are capable of achieving more and engaging much more than we have now. Because you are someone who is from the inside now, how do you think the African community can engage? And first of all, is this a lack of desire from the African community to engage, or is this a lack of desire from the Australian politicians? What's going on?
Yeah, what I think first and foremost, I must say that it's better now than it was 1999. What Africans and other people who have come into this country have to know is that you have to be patient with yourself. We just started coming here in 2000. So 2000 is so soon. Now, by the time we find out how to go to school, where to take our kids to the daycare, 5 years are gone. Then, after that, we start engaging with the wider community. And it is going to take time. At least, now I can say in 20 years, I've gotten to a black person, complete from Africa, have gotten to the Senate. So what that tells us is we are now starting to engage. Now, there is completely nothing stopping us as Africans and other migrants from engaging in politics. The only thing is lack of civic education. Lack of, where do you go to if you wanted to join the Liberal Party? Where do you go to if you wanted to join the Labour Party? What do you get? That information is not publicly available. So that is one of the things I would say, more civic education about how is this country governed. We have 3 levels of government: the councils, the state, the federal. That information is not on the street. That information you don't. So you've come here within the last 2 years. It's not the kind of information you find on the street. So you have to something has to prompt you to learn. And I was a voter. I voted since I became a citizen in this country. But I didn't engage in it because it was not necessary for me as an individual. I think we have to make, to find that information ourselves and get to know, we have to educate ourselves because this information is not on the street. So, and that is like many aspects of settling in a new country. What do you do first? What do you do next? So I think we are getting there. But we need also to know that if we are not politically engaged, decisions are going to be made about us and we won't be there. So from an inside person, from inside, I can say nothing is stopping anyone from engaging. Just join that political party that aligns best with your values. Whichever aligns, just that to know. So who is a state council? And guess what? This country, if you went to your local member of parliament, they are so helpful. State, federal, and they are so accessible. So it's just making a decision that now this is an aspect of our life that we now need to know. Okay. Yes.
So then, being a female, an African woman, you are an inspiration to lots of young women who some wants to become, some would like to become professionals, some would like to go into politics and look up to you for inspiration. What will you say to young women who look up to you?
Yeah, to young women and young men as well, because
they,
they are the same. Follow your dream. And don't give yourself time limit. Don't say, I wanted to do it when I was 20, when I was 30. There is no end to this life as long as you are alive. That small voice, follow your dream, ask the next question that you think will advance there. And also, most important, if you think you wanted to be volunteer in that area that you wanted, this is Australia. You don't have to have any qualifications. You can work as you chase your dream. So once again, this ties up with that welfare question. Just don't make welfare your last stop. While you are at that, go volunteer somewhere. Go find out, how do I move from here to the other? Because information is available. In fact, this country is very, very friendly. Just chase your dream. The other point I would say, make this country your home. I know we have left behind, family, missing, homesick. You can always visit them. But make this country your home, because you are operating from here. But go visit your country. I always say, going back to Kenya makes me love Australia more. I love going to visit. I visit preferably because Dad is still there like once every 2 years. But going there now makes me understand Australia more.
So when you say make this country your home, it's about mindset, perception?
Starts with a mindset decision that this is my home. I am going to be here for a very long, long time. But you know what? I'm not giving up where I came from. I will go visit my father, my sisters, my country once every 2 years, but this is my home. When you make a place your home, you start understanding who are your neighbors. Sure. You start understanding, so what am I going to do in the next 5 years? You become engaged. That disconnection starts with a mental decision. Yes, it took me a mental decision. It took me going back to Kenya and saying, you know what, now I'm in Australia. Now I've seen this. You know what? It's not going to be easy, but I'm going to plow through. I'm going to learn. I'm going to ask. And I have to be patient. I've got a whole lifetime to enjoy this country, to live in this country. And make sure you are just living within the law. You understand the law. And also be patient. You don't have to change your accent. You don't have to know more English than you need to know. You don't have to change your character. This country needs you as you are. And you don't have to be scared, of things. You just try and try again. Sure. Fail, try again. Try what is making you. Sure. Yeah.
I totally agree with you on that. Yeah. Final question. I'm fascinated about your history and what you have become now. Yeah. When it's all said and done, historically, and your legacy, how do you want to be remembered?
How I want to be remembered is as somebody who told people to get themselves empowered. There is nothing as bad as a disempowered human being. Get yourself on who you are. Yeah. And accept and love who you are. Relate with your neighbor, literally. Who is your neighbor, black or white? Forget about identity politics. And let's not be caught up with gender, sex, race, who you are. That's irrelevant. All you need to know, I'm a human being. I'm in this country. I'm making a living. If only people can get that into our minds, this place would be, the world will be a very good place to live in. Yes.
That's very smart of you. I think it's a goal for everyone to empower themselves.
Yeah.
In Australia,
yeah.
is key
Yeah.
to success. And on this note, again, it is a privilege having you talk to us, giving us the time to talk to you and your experiences and everything you have achieved as a senator or someone of African background. We are glad to be part of this history. It's a history for us, and we look forward to speaking with you in future, and whenever you need us to talk, we are available.
Thank you
so
very
just
much.
like to say thank you, Senator.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you for listening. Make your views, share our video. It's a very interesting conversation. This is historic for us. I'm so excited. Thank you very much for watching.